All right, everyone, welcome back to Guardians of the Podcast. As always, you have Stefan Parra right here.
And Nick like it.
Yes, and today, this week, we're going to be reviewing Pan's Labyrinth. It was my choice. It's a great movie. It is available on Netflix if you're living in the United States. And beware of spoilers. That's all I'm going to
Spoilers
say.
are here. Stefan, why did you choose this
Absolutely.
movie?
What?
Why did you choose this movie?
Well, first of all, I chose this movie because it is very well known that Guillermo del Toro, a Mexican director, has this very mysterious kind of vibe in his movies, and I like that kind of genre. So I decided to try a different genre from what we have been covering lately, and also I really encourage you guys to check out Guillermo del Toro's movies. He's a Mexican director that directed Hellboy. He directed Pan's Labyrinth, The Shape of Water, and many others. So that is the reason why I
Their
chose this
own,
movie.
like they all like seem like they're like from the same director, you know? They have the same
Yeah,
style.
absolutely. I feel like you definitely can tell the relationship. Well, not the relationship, but you can definitely tell that this director made all of those movies. Like it almost seems like
They have similar tones and similar I guess cinematography, I guess.
yeah, absolutely similar cinematography, tones. Even the characters look very similar. Um,
I don't
it,
think
it almost seems
Boy looks anything like Ophelia, but that's just me.
no,
Like
but actually,
I get you what you're saying, like the prosthetics, like he uses very practical
yeah,
aesthetics in his
ha-
films.
yeah. And have you seen also spoilers right here from The Shape of Water and Hellboy? But have you seen The Shape of
I
Water?
haven't seen either of those, so actually
Oh well,
I've seen Hellboy, but I don't think all the way.
well, you know the water character in Hellboy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he's also like very similar characters in
And
The
the
Shape of
prosthetics
Water.
look very similar on him that they do in the characters in this movie.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and
Like it kind of looks like a dark, menacing character, but doesn't always mean that the character's dark and menacing.
yeah, absolutely. That's like the Fawn's
Yeah, the font.
role in this movie. Yeah, like you definitely feel like at some point he's gonna break and he's gonna actually be something evil.
Yeah,
But well,
but
spoiler never
sort
really
of
happens.
like it sort of was that way, but it sort of wasn't. And we'll get into that
Yeah,
in our review. And just for anyone that's visiting our channel for the first time, we are a podcast dedicated to bringing you the most objective scoring of a movie possible. We analyze all elements of a movie, rate them out of 10, and average the score. We do this because we believe that just because one element of a movie may be garbage doesn't mean another element couldn't be pure art.
absolutely. So you're gonna see examples of what Nick just mentioned in many of our reviews. For example, I think let's see what we. Let me give you guys an example. I think in one of our past reviews, we have a really good review for something, and the rest of the movies like so I really good reviewed very well the. No, actually, I didn't. It was all very average, actually.
Most of the
Never
movies
mind.
that we've reviewed are pretty average. So we
Yeah,
to change it up this week. Give you different.
yeah, yeah. We decided to spice it up a little bit
Well,
because
we wanted to do a few movies that were new to the movie theaters. Well, I guess they're not to the movie theaters, but to streaming services. So we wanted to put out
yeah,
new content for you guys. And now that the new stuff is kind of dried up, that we decided to do older movies now. Until
yeah.
I think that I think the movie's called Chaos Walking, and that's coming out March the 3rd. So yeah, we
We'll have a review on March 4th.
no
As soon as possible, though.
be
We
fine.
always
That's March 3rd. I think is a Wednesday, and so we have to watch.
March 5th.
So we yeah. So
Yeah, stay tuned, guys. We always release on Fridays,
Friday.
and like Nick was mentioning, we our like main movie like list will be about the movies that are coming out of interest to the public. However, like because of the pandemic, there's a lot of movies that got pushed out, things like that. So we're doing
Really far down the line, like Black Widow, that was supposed to come out last year, I think at this time, and then Dune, that was supposed to come out last December, but
oh
now
yeah.
now that's been pushed to October, which I'm really upset about. But eventually we'll get there.
Yeah. So yeah, guys. So we're gonna be reviewing movies that are old because there are not a lot of new movies coming out, and we want to touch every single genre out there, and we also want to review movies that we really like, so we give like really high scores, that we also really hate, so we give really low scores. We want to like touch every single kind of movie out there that we can. Um, if you
Next
have
week,
any
next
recommendations
week we're
about
gonna
movies,
do an adventure movie. We'll tell you what movie at the end of this video.
absolutely stay tuned. So stay tuned until the end of the video. Now we're gonna start covering Pan's Labyrinth.
And
Nick will tell us
came
right
out in
now.
2006, and it won the award for Best Production Design, Academy Award for Best Makeup and Hairstyle, Academy Award for Best Cinematography. Well deserved, all categories, for sure. So,
Agreed, 100%.
a little brief synopsis of the movie would be during the heat of World War II, a young girl named Ophelia and her pregnant mother moved to a remote location in Spain to live with her stepfather, a fascist captain named Vidal. While her friends fight to dismantle the fascist regime looming over the land, Ophelia unlocks her true destiny with the help of unlikely allies in the form of mythical creatures. There we go.
Yeah. So this movie kind of has two different stories. It kind of has like a real life kind of like
Yeah.
conflict going on, and at the same time, an intertwined story as well. It's a fairy tale kind of life that you may argue it's all in Ophelia's head.
Yeah, I think it definitely does show that it could be a coping mechanism. Um, but real quickly, I want to touch on the fact that this movie was shot in Spanish, and I obviously that was done for a very specific reason because this movie takes place in Spain during World War II, and I think it was a really good choice in the direction of the movie. Let's go ahead and jump into the plot. So
Yeah, I mean,
you were talking how you thought that the whole mythical creature idea um, was all in Ophelia's mind.
well, yeah, there is, I think, very well, there's not very many, but there's many parts in the movie where one is wondering if what's happening is actually happening in real life, or if Ophelia is somehow acting that way because of the life that she's like living. So her mother is, well, she's living right now with a stepfather that is
Who seems
very
very
controlling.
like, yeah, controlling and a real jerk, as
Yeah, basically.
all fascists are. Just kidding.
Yeah. And she has a mother that looks for her best interests, but she thinks that her best interests are to be raised by this guy. So she does everything that Vidal says and is basically always defending him. So she's basically kind of alone in this moment in her life.
Ophelia.
And yeah,
And
Ophelia.
sort of the mother too, because Vidal keeps like during the movie he brought up a bunch of times where like during the dinner scene he kind of like disowned some of the comments. He was like, "Oh, they don't want to hear about our silly uh, stories or whatever," and she was like, "Oh, I'm sorry I said anything." So he kind
Yeah.
of like discredits her during that scene, and
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, because it is a new relationship, she probably doesn't know Vidal as well
yeah,
as she would like.
I think she took the relationship in order to survive. That's what it
Yeah.
seemed like because they had just lost her husband, and obviously, I think he was pretty much like the person that was taking care of them, and so and she talked about how she was lonely too, and that was also affecting how the mother felt, and so I think that's why she ended up marrying Vidal.
Absolutely. And so going back to the topic since the very beginning, we see Ophelia, for example, watching a fairy, fairy dust, fairy, what do you call it?
It was just a fairy. Well,
A fairy, fairy, yeah.
yeah, but it was
The-
at first when it showed up, it was a bug, and I was like, and she looked at it like, oh, it was something cute, and I was like, that bug, I would, who wouldn't run away from that bug? But I think she was just like using like all these mythical creatures in her mind to cope with what's going on around her. Or you could also take it that it was actually going on around her.
yeah.
I also
Eventually,
I also thought that this movie was very much like a dark Narnia. Like
yeah, you could say so. Eventually, the biggest, basically,
they both happen in World War II, and when Ophelia goes into to the labyrinth for the first time, she meets up with a faun, and when I think it was Lucy goes into Narnia for the first time, she meets a faun, and so
that's true. This is a
kind of
creepy Narnia then.
Narnia in a way, but not exactly.
This is a creepy Narnia. Yeah. Also, like the
Darker.
Narnia characters, they also were living in a house, a new house, and they also had like a very controlling kind of aunt, or was it an aunt,
Uh, well,
or step kind of like,
yeah.
yeah,
They
step
also
uncle.
came out like within a year of each other. Narnia came out in 2005, and Pan's Labyrinth came out in 2006. So
Yeah.
very close.
So I mean, yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's some inspiration there, but what I wanted to say is that eventually we see a complete depiction of Ophelia. Actually, basically, we as a viewer, you may think like, okay, this is the absolute depiction of why we would argue that she's imagining all of this when she is talking to herself in Vidal's eyes when she was, I think it was during her last test. Am I right?
Yeah, the last test, she was in the labyrinth, and the faun told her to give up her brother so he could, I think, kill her brother, and she decided to say no to it. But what was happening is Vidal came up onto her and saw that she was talking to the faun, but she wasn't really talking to anything. So it looked like it wasn't actually, whatever was going on wasn't happening. At least it could have been taken two ways. One, that he didn't see it because he didn't believe in it, or he didn't like, or it wasn't actually there. So
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, let's talk about. Do you want to talk about? You already covered the synopsis. Do you want to talk about the plot? Is
yeah,
that what we're doing?
yeah, that's what we're doing right now.
Nick, what just happened?
A light fell.
A light?
A light.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. I don't know if you want to call it right now. Do we want to talk about the plot, like kind of not so jumpy, or
I mean, I think I like how we're talking about it. It's just it's flowing very well. I think we should go into like,
okay? What are we going?
okay, so we're gonna go back. We're gonna do this. Let me think. What am I gonna say?
Yeah, but what are we gonna talk about now? So I talked about. I first started with
Let's talk about some of the symbolism with the labyrinth and the tests. We don't even have to talk about the.
Okay.
I could talk about what I thought the symbolism was, and then we could just talk about the scene.
I mean, I can come up with something as you say your opinion about it.
Yeah.
But
Well,
what I'm gonna say is what?
It'll be fine. Like even if I just come up with a symbolism, you could just get into something. Oh, I thought this was really cool, and I'd be like, yeah, that was really cool. Blah blah blah.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. You don't
So,
have to give your symbolism unless you have a symbolism.
okay, do you want to guide it or?
I could kind of guide it. I'm gonna talk about the labyrinth first and what I thought about it.
Okay, you go ahead. You go ahead. Okay.
You're kind of like in the topic of it already.
Yeah.
So the war I thought in the movie was portrayed by the actually I want to say that differently. Let me redo that.
Yeah, guys, excuse this guy. He's a bit weird sometimes, but he's,
Uh,
he's still a good friend. He's still a good friend.
okay, so the labyrinth I thought in the movie represented war basically in general, just because you can lose yourself in war and lose your innocence, and that's what I pretty much thought what the labyrinth represented in the movie, because I think this movie has a lot of symbolism in it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you got that same vibe, but that's what I took from the labyrinth.
No, absolutely. This is a very creative, imaginative, and definitely relies on a lot of symbolism throughout the whole movie. I agree as well on that.
All the mythical stuff I think is a lot of symbolism.
Yeah,
Like for the first test, I where she goes underneath that one, was it willow tree?
yeah,
This
yeah,
tree. Anyway, she
yeah.
goes to that tree and she's crawling through the mud and she's getting all dirty. And I thought that represented like a loss of her innocence because she was getting all dirty, and basically that's what I thought. And her dress got messed up, and so that kind of represents a disconnection from her mother, in which the beginning of the movie she was very much like with her mother a lot, like
Yeah, and also the way they dressed her was very childlike, right? Like her dress looked very childlike, and the fact that during this test she had to destroy it basically to a point kind of made it seem like it was like a coming to age kind of moment.
yeah, for sure. And then she ended up killing that one frog. So that was also
She
uh,
had to feed the frog, right? Some stones.
she had to feed the frog a stone, so she decided to put a bug in her hand with the stones, and so the frog ate the bug and the stones at the same time, which ended up killing the frog, which
Yeah,
also could represent the loss of her innocence because like she had to kill something in order to get something done. And
yeah,
it also represented that she at that point in the movie she was blindly uh, following the lead of this fawn that just told her to do this, and she was like, "Okay, I'm gonna do this," which is
yeah. How? Okay, go on, go on.
which I think is very much how basically the Nazi regime came to be. Hitler was like, "Oh, uh, the Jews are bad," and everyone was like, "Yeah, let's listen to this guy blindly." And obviously, that was showing that that's not a good um, policy.
It's not a good way to act, right? It's not a good.
Yeah, it was her first test, and so yeah, so
Yeah, she didn't have a lot of critical thinking behind
yeah,
the yeah,
as she progressed through the test, she started thinking deeper into what she was doing. But
yeah.
first test, she was blindly following a leader, and
How did she first encounter the faun, Nick?
she first encounters the fawn when she, let's see, I think she just decides to go down into the labyrinth. Oh, the fairy thing, the bug
Yeah, like guys. Huh? Yeah.
uh, guided her into the labyrinth, and then she found the fawn there.
What did you think when you first saw the labyrinth?
I thought it was like it was very well
Oh
depicted.
yeah, the
It had,
design is look really cool. Yeah,
yeah, it looked really dark and very ominous, and I didn't like know if I could like trust it, but
yeah,
yeah.
hmm
So when the fawn came out, he was like, oh, he looked all brooding and evil, and like even like his eyes were, I guess, clouded almost, so it didn't look like there was like any eyes in there. And then I don't know, the prosthetics were very good to make it look like he was evil. And at first, like it definitely he was doing evil stuff in the beginning, but that was all a test for her, which I thought was super interesting.
yeah. I thought during that part when I first watched the labyrinth, I kind of thought that this was symbolically saying that one should never judge something by the cover of the book,
Yeah,
kind of deal.
that's also really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And
So let's move
then
on to the second test, which was her was I guess it was temptation, was the symbolism there because she had to go into this layer basically of this creature, the creature with the
oh, that was actually a very cool part. I think that's probably my favorite part of the movie.
I have to take
First of all, when she's receiving the instructions to like draw the door with the chalk on the wall. Do you have a you don't have a picture for your background of that?
no, I've decided just to go for one background only. But just
Oh,
imagine,
dude, I think it was really cool whenever
do I
you were
not look like
showing.
it?
No, you actually kind of look like him. Like it's kind of, now that I think about you,
Same
maybe that's you when you
same
get older.
tone, same skin tone.
Yeah,
I think I was the model. Like that's what they modeled the creature.
Yeah, maybe Guillermo del Toro saw you walking one day,
Yeah,
and then
it's
he was
like,
like,
oh, that's
"Oh,
creepy right there.
yeah, like that, yeah." Let's just make him bald and older,
A picture like
and fatter, and just one eye, or never mind, two eyes.
pretend to take a picture. Just like pretend to
What? Okay,
yeah. So you
there
take
we
it.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I
apparently,
got it.
kids these days, when they pretend to take a picture, they put their hand up and like that, like they're taking it.
Oh shit!
So apparently, that's what the kids are doing these days. And I'm like,
So I'm old.
not.
I'm old. Oh no, I'm so old. Oh no, I'm 1995, guys.
We're both
Uh,
1995.
yeah,
19.
with the kids, but I guess we're old now. Dang. Pretend to take a picture.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? No, you kids.
You fool.
Don't forget what a camera is. No.
Anyway, so the second test. The second test.
Okay, well, yeah, the second test is probably my favorite part about the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Stefan, I think you'd be one of the people that ate the food for sure.
yeah, well, I don't know why Nick keeps saying I do eat a lot. I eat all the time.
You
That's my
would see
secret.
you would see your
That
favorite
is my
food.
secret, viewers.
What's your favorite
I'm
food?
always hungry.
Stefan, what's your favorite food?
Oh my god, I have so many, but tacos for sure.
You'll just see a plate of tacos and you'll be like, oh, those look like some real good, authentic tacos right there. I can't resist.
I have very good, strong power of
You
will.
have strong willpower.
Yeah, I know that I wouldn't. Especially when, like, first of all, I wouldn't go hungry in there. But even if I go hungry in there, then I would be like, okay, I was literally like instructed not to eat.
Yeah,
And
I think the food also has some type of temptation value to it. So when you look
yeah,
at food, it's like I don't know how to describe it. Just like draws you to like, oh, I really want that food.
yeah, it looked juicy. It looked delicious. But
It's not that just
um,
because it looks delicious, because I think it also has some type of magical property in which it wants to coerce you to eat it, not just
yeah, yeah,
looks delicious.
it's it's kind of like the ring in the Lord of the
Magical
Rings.
properties. What?
It's kind of like the ring in the Lord of the Rings, where like
Yeah,
it draws you to it. So I feel like it's
exactly.
like some kind of magic,
But
probably.
they didn't. If I don't think if they were going for that for the magical property, I don't think they portrayed it that well. Because again, I was like, why is she eating these grapes? It should have just like
No,
grapes.
I think they did, like, just give it a hint. They didn't need to say it even more than just a hint. I feel like they were like, don't eat this, bad things will happen. Then there were like paintings all over the walls
Of
of
the kids get eaten. That'd be you,
yeah,
Mom. You'd be eaten.
and there was literally the creature on the wall eating this kids was literally sitting right there.
Yeah.
So I
And she
was
picked up
like,
eyeballs. Like, she should
that's
have.
why
What if she was gonna eat something? She should have ate the eyeballs.
oh, that's gross as fuck, but anyway.
Gross. She could have eaten the eyeballs, and then
Yeah.
it would have been.
Actually, funny you say that. Sometimes we would go to this Chinese restaurant, me and my family,
Oh my God.
and my dad loves to eat this fish on soy sauce, and he would eat the eyes of the fish, and I would always like almost like yeah. I was really young too, but I know I wouldn't have done the same thing because you see the guy that is in the pictures eating other kids. It is a clear sign
So
that
fun.
you were told not to eat.
Like you wouldn't have completed your task and got the little knife thing, and then be like, "Oh, I'm gonna grab a taco to go," and then just take one and
No.
yes.
Wait, although I wouldn't have done that for sure because he was literally guarding the banquet. So it is a clear. It was more than clear water like that. If you grab any food there, you were in big trouble. So I I'm not that dumb. I don't like getting in trouble.
Honestly, like
But
I wouldn't have done that, but like if I knew the monster was as slow as it was, I would have taken it and run.
but now that you mention it, I was actually gonna ask. I was actually gonna mention, like, let's hypothesize right now. Actually, what would have happened if the girl was like, you know what? This looks delicious. I'm gonna eat it later. I'm gonna put some grapes. I'm gonna put some. There was a pie there. I don't remember what else there was there. And then she was just like, okay, well, she grabs it. She didn't eat it. I don't know if the creature would have been triggered because it wasn't eaten yet.
I don't know.
But let's say it was triggered. Well, she's not eating in the moment, so she can just run away.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was a big
Even when she was caught, she had a knife. She had a knife. She could just,
yeah.
and then she
Well,
could
but
eat all that food.
that creature just looked like that creature wouldn't have died on with a puncture of a knife.
I
Like
would have tried if I had
it
decided.
looked like a zombie like kind of creature. Like
Yeah,
I don't think that would have worked.
like a
So
demon of some sort.
I think you would have. I think just getting close to that creature would have been a mistake.
Yeah,
Just giving him a chance to grab you would have been a mistake.
but
But what I would have,
the test did have some consequences to it, unlike the first test, because she did get tempted by eating the grapes. Two of the fairies died, so that started putting more weight on the test that she did. And when she did get back from the test, she admitted to eating the food, which basically had her fail the test. The test wasn't necessarily getting the knife, the test was eating the food or not. But so she was tempted by it, also losing more innocence because it's like Adam and Eve when
yeah,
Eve and Adam ate the apple.
yeah,
So it was something. It was sort of like that type of temptation. So she failed temptation.
yeah. I feel like the first test was kind of like a test to see like the real daughter of this mythical
Yeah,
uh, royalty people would have been drawn to take the first test and move on to learn more about what's going on.
yeah,
And that's probably what the first test was trying to like. It was there wasn't a bad consequence. So if she didn't do it, it wasn't the right person to target because that person would have been drawn to this world. But she was, so that's what the first test was trying to find. And so she, in my opinion, so she passes this test by showing interest in knowing more about this world. Then this test, like you say, this the daughter of this royalty people was probably really like, or was supposed to be really innocent, or really maybe not innocent, but really let's just say like at least have a strong power of will.
yeah,
And so this test was trying to like test if she would be able to contain her own instincts basically, which she wasn't able to. um which the font obviously was very disappointed to know about. What did you think whenever she was like drawing on the wall and she opened like this door just opened, and then what do you think about the design of where she was walking towards the knife?
What's the last part?
So like whenever she's like already in this corridor walking towards the banquet, and like you see all these walls, and like I don't know, what did you think about how it was decorated and
Set design. I thought
yeah,
it
the
was
vibe of the place?
Well, first of all, with the chalk, I thought that was a very like cool original idea to have. To I guess it wasn't really original. I think it's been done before, but I thought it was well.
Where
I don't know.
I, it kind of seemed familiar to me as
I,
well, but I
it
couldn't.
seems familiar to me, but I can't place it. So I'm just gonna say that it was really cool how they did it. They just drew it and it popped up a door that was like a thick door that opened up.
Yeah,
I thought that was a really cool set design. And when she crawled in through and got into that like I don't know, it was kind of tan reddish tones, like earthy tones.
yeah,
So it kind of seemed like she was underground in like a demon's lair. And so I thought that was really cool.
yeah. And you know, like how in Indiana Jones, I don't know, remember which one of them
The
was,
second
but
one, Temple of Doom.
yeah, where
Come on.
he had to choose the yeah he's a big guy about Indiana Jones, and Jurassic Park, don't even get him started. But when he's
Jurassic
choosing
Park.
the, I think I got him started. But anyway, I'm gonna try and stop this madness.
Let me tell you about Jurassic.
Hey, we're reviewing a different movie right now. Uh, what? Oh, the chalices. You remember when he was like he needed to choose the right chalice
Well, that's in the
to
third one.
yeah, yeah. And in that one the lesson was like
Like
the like it doesn't have to be gold. It doesn't have to be
like
like
Jesus
the most
would have chosen the least like flamboyant like
yeah
cup out of all of them. He would have chosen the most what's a good word? I don't know.
like humble or
Humble a good word,
yeah,
yo.
yeah, and
Humble cup.
this was a similar test. Like the place looked really comfy. It looked really
I didn't think it
well,
was
the
comfy.
colors.
Yeah, I thought it looked really like foreboding, and I was like, I don't know. I didn't like the vibe.
But it did have a creepy vibe. But what I would say is like it looked really like just like I don't know. It looked like flamboyant,
Food
right?
definitely.
Yeah, and she chose the flamboyant.
Yep.
She
It,
couldn't hold it.
and she failed. And she failed her test. And when she got
Yeah,
back, the fawn was like, you're done. We're cutting you off.
yeah, basically.
And
Yeah,
but eventually, I guess he forgave her and was like, oh, you can do the third test now, which was
yeah.
the ultimate test. Anyway, so the third test is like has so many layers to it. So the fawn basically tells her to go get her brother, which was born, and so she does. She brings it to the fawn. Vidal is chasing her because he doesn't want her to take his son because he's really proud of having a son, um, and basically an heir to his family name. And so she takes her brother to the fawn, and the fawn's like, "Oh, give me your brother now," and he has the knife. And so like she now is when she finally decides to not blindly follow authority, and she says, "No, I'm not going to give you my brother. I don't want you to kill him because I know you're going to do it with that knife. I see it right there." And so she doesn't give him the knife, and that apparently was the test. Not, I guess, to it was a test of morality. It was a test of following your own instinct to not just follow blindly. As I think it was for, I think that was symbolized. The symbolism there was the Nazi regime and fascists, where people are just following their orders without batting an eye, and they're committing these atrocities. And I
Oh
think
yeah. Wow, that's good. Mm-hmm.
that's why I got. Um,
So stop following blindly. Like have your own view of the things. Have
yeah,
your own critical thoughts, and make. And then also, it was even if she had her own view and her own critical thoughts about everything that was going on, make her own decision about what she believes to be right.
mhm.
So obviously, saving her brother's life was what she thought to be right, and it was the right thing. Most of us would argue,
Even though
of
it
course.
did end up costing her life, because when she gave
Yeah,
her brother back to her stepfather, he ended up shooting Ophelia, and then I guess the blood had to fall into the labyrinth in order for it to open up the gateway. Was it a gateway? I guess it was a gateway
yeah,
back into the magical world. And so when she was dying, the blood was like dripping off her hand and into the labyrinth, like the hole in the labyrinth, and into the portal. And so she was able, in her, at least in her mind, if this was all in her mind, it enabled her to travel back to the magical world.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And while all this happened, she basically um, gained eternal life with her.
Because she was
With
was she, what was she? Was it a goddess? Or
well, she was definitely a princess
yeah, she was
in this.
definitely a princess, but I don't know like
Uh,
how she has eternal life or what. I
well,
don't
that's what I believe. I think I
know.
think like the fawn had been living for a really long time, and he said that he had been waiting for her for a really long time, and her parents were still alive, and
Yeah.
I don't know. They were basically letting her know that okay, she was in a good place now. That she did the right things that they expected her to do.
Mhm.
Um, and while that happened, Vidal, who was the one who actually wanted to immortalize himself through an heir and through his
Boy.
tradition of breaking the watch.
So Vidal's father was a military man as well, and so when his father died in war, but before he died, he smashed his watch so his son would know what time he died. And so
Yeah,
Vidal was given the watch, and he saw what time his father died, and he fixed his watch, fixed that same watch, and decided when he dies, he's going to do the exact same thing for his son. And so at the very end of the movie, when he's faced with the rebels and versus just him, he's like, he gives his son to Mercedes, who he trusts the most because honestly, Mercedes is seems really good-hearted, and
Yeah.
it seems like she wouldn't hurt the boy in spite of him. So he does, and
What
he's
was his
oh,
last
I'm
wish?
at least tell him when I died. And he was about to
Yeah,
take his
yeah,
watch, and they were like, "We're not going to give you the satisfaction. He's not even going to know your name because
yeah,
that's how they're going to get back at him. Is not to let the son know that his father was a fascist, just to make sure that the son is raised right."
yeah. So yeah, exactly. So basically, at that moment is when Vidal faces oblivion, and Ophelia at the same time faces eternity, which is, I don't know if there is some kind of meaning behind
Obviously,
that, but I feel like you were saying, if you talk about
because I feel
comparing this
like the
to,
other side, like when Ophelia went into this other realm or whatever, it was very heaven-like almost. So
yeah, yeah,
it
yeah,
represent heaven, and then he's represented hell. Like his death.
yeah, and not even hell.
His
It
death
just,
is very dark and doesn't have like any light to it at the very end. At least Ophelia's death was dark as well, but after she died, it showed her going into this happier place.
yeah, it looked like you said, like heaven like kind of place, and it looked like a place where, like, I don't know if eternity, but at least they live a long time, like real long time. And Vidal just seemed to be like forgotten in time and space from that moment on, which is against everything he ever fought for. But I feel like this is probably trying to portray that, like, for example, extreme fascist regimes and uh, negative attacks like the Nazis did will be forgotten eventually and will be uh, left behind, while the people who suffered and the people who died for the right thing will not. If
They'll go
the,
on.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So maybe that's
And it's
that's the symbolism.
like with Nazis at least, like anytime you want a bad guy in a movie and you don't want to like portray any country as bad, you just pop in some Nazis and everyone hates them automatically. And that's how Nazis are viewed, and that's how they're always going to be viewed. So
Yeah,
so that's how their history goes down. That's how they go down in history as being the ultimate bad people that everybody that sees them on screen, they're just like, I hate you. But
yeah.
other people, like everybody else, is like if you have a bad guy in your movie and it's some other country, like I think what was the movie? I think it was Red Dawn that came out sometime in the 2000s. It was like a reboot of the Red Dawn, the old Red Dawn that came out in the 80s. But they did, I think it was China or North Korea, and I think they took offense to that. Like the countries took offense that America made a film that portrayed them as the bad guys. I don't know if,
Oh, okay.
but
Well, I mean, North Korea is always saying that the U.S. is the ultimate enemy, and that,
yeah,
well, when clearly is the opposite. But who that is a clear depiction of what we're talking about. So North Korea, who is the regime um, that is trying to hide the truth to their own citizens, that their own citizens live in a dream world. They think the world is a completely different place from what it actually really is.
they even have
and
internet. If they have internet, it's very censored, right?
and they think that their country is like the dominating country in the world. They think that they're actually like basically the United States of the world, and they think that the United States is a country that is jealous of them and wants to destroy them.
Yeah.
So basically, saying all of this, what I'm trying to say is that all of the other nations basically ignore North Korea because they're the ones who fight for the wrong things, or not the people. The people are not at fault, but their government. And then the government in the United States tries to protect democracy, and therefore it is viewed for the world as the leading country in many different kind of categories that one would, I don't know, qualify a country for.
Mm. Yeah.
But anyway, that's kind of going really into
Because
deep thought. It's almost overthinking the movie, but this movie is
you
an easy movie
can
to.
never
It's an easy movie
overthink a
to.
movie because they say a picture is worth a
Yeah,
thousand words, and a movie is moving pictures. So just think of how many pictures we have to talk about. So many words can
yeah,
say whatever.
yeah, yeah.
Anyway,
There's so many topics to cover in this movie too. Like this
yeah,
movie is an easy movie
very
to
exciting.
overthink.
Anyway,
Yeah,
so while all this mythical stuff is going on with Ophelia, we have the
yeah,
rebels fighting Vidal. Vidal was
yeah,
sent to the region to basically snuff out the rebels, get rid of them. Mercedes, she's helping out the rebels. The doctor that's with them, he's helping out the rebels. The doctor's kind of doing what a doctor should be doing and not taking sides. He's just helping out anyone that's wounded. And the mother was really sick, but Ophelia put, I believe it was a mandrake underneath her bed with some milk in
yeah,
it, and would give it some blood.
yeah.
And
The phone told her to do that. Yeah,
yeah, the fawn told her to do that. The fawn gave her the mandrake. Anyway,
does it did remind me of Harry Potter at that point?
yeah,
I was
the
like, oh,
mandrake. I was like, hey,
yeah.
that's Harry Potter. I don't know. I guess I don't know if mandrakes are like a big thing, but
Yeah,
I
before
don't know
Harry
if you've heard
Potter,
Harry Potter.
I yeah, I never really knew the. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if those are
I'm sure
European.
J.K. Rowling pulled from different things because she had like werewolves in her books, and obviously werewolves are a big thing. So, and witches and wizards and
I mean, it could be confusing because if it's all in Ophelia's head, is she really getting better because of that?
yeah,
But at the same time, um, if it's not happening all in her head,
it
then
depends. It's either way you want to take the movie. You can take the movie one way, or you can take it the other way, and
yeah,
it could be
then
like
she really killed the magic
where
behind.
it could be like a placebo effect where you like are taking medicine and you're like, oh, I'm getting better because I'm taking medicine, but is it really the medicine?
But
Because
she wasn't aware of the mandrake.
the
The
mother,
mother.
yeah, no, yeah, the mother, no, but Ophelia could have thought, oh, my
Oh
mom's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
as
Mhm.
Andre, but
Yeah, maybe there was some medicine that helped her,
yeah,
and at the same time as
yeah.
yeah,
So when Vidal left his prisoner that he was torturing to get information out of, Vidal told the doctor to keep him alive, keep his prisoner alive, but the doctor ended up giving him basically medicine that would kill him. So disobeyed the he disobeyed Vidal because he doesn't like how the whole movie with the labyrinth is basically setting up to not follow blindly. I think the doctor actually says that he's not going to follow orders blindly like his men or something. And so that's another way of that they showed that type of that they showed that in the movie.
yeah, the type of stepping up for doing the right thing,
To
no
not
matter no,
follow blindly, you know.
yeah,
So yeah, so then uh
yeah, because a lot of people may think they're doing the right thing because
yeah,
they're following orders, but
yeah.
if they don't piece it together, I think well, I don't want to get into that, but a lot of controversial things that have happened lately in the world have to do with that. Also, big thing with the World War II, but also with like, um, I don't know, with many different things that have happened politically.
So later on, Vidal is having a drink with Mercedes, and he already suspects her of being the informant. And so Vidal tells her that he needs more alcohol. So gives he tells her to go to get some from like the shed, which has the lock on it with the only key that he has. And so she starts to go get it, and he's like, are you forgetting something? And he's like,
Ah, the king. Yeah.
and she was like, oh no. And then so at that moment she's like, okay, I'll go get the alcohol. And then she's like, I'm gonna run. And so she grabs uh, Ophelia, and they start leaving, walking down the riverbed. You know why they walk down the riverbed
No.
instead of on land?
Oh well, because no, I don't know.
Because they're covering up their tracks. Because when you
Oh,
walk in a river,
oh.
you can't track somebody walking in a river. But
Well, no wonder Nick wanted to be the ranger in D&D. I didn't know that. That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. So there you go. That's why they were walking in the river. Anyway, they had this really cool shot where she had Mercedes has the umbrella. She has it, and she's talking. So they hear a noise, and you think it's going to be the rebels, and so the camera pans in really close to them, and so you can only really see their faces and the umbrella. And then as soon as she like moves, the camera sees Vidal standing behind her with all his men, and they're like, "We got you." And so they take her back, and then throughout the movie, you see Mercedes like cooking, but she's like cleaning the knife
Yeah.
her shirt and like tucking it in underneath her shirt. And so the whole movie, I was like, that has to be something because they've shown that too many times. And then so she has the knife underneath her shirt, and she's able to escape from her bindings. And basically, well, Vidal has his back turned, stabs him, cuts his cheek like the Joker.
Oh yeah, that was a
that
gross.
was
Yeah.
that was nasty.
Yeah.
But
And whenever he's like putting it together again, oh
actually, it also reminded me of like the prosthetics in Wonder Woman, the first Wonder Woman movie, with that lady with the really weird smile. Do you know what I'm talking about? Anyway, she has like a cut, kind of like that too. Anyway, so it reminded me of both of those characters. So that was pretty
well,
gross.
I mean, what other character would that remind you of? Big one.
Joker. And
Yeah.
I said the Joker already.
Did
Anyway,
you?
yes, I did. Rewind the clip. His cheek like the Joker.
Oh
Back to it. Okay. so
yeah.
so Mercedes escapes after cutting Vidal and returns later with the rebels, attacks the base, and basically Mercedes ends up finding Vidal with her brother. They kill him, and she gets the baby brother of Ophelia, and then they go into the maze and find Ophelia dying. And Mercedes feels like she let the girl down because basically Ophelia kept her secret because Ophelia knew that Mercedes was the informant the whole time. And she's like, I don't want anything to happen to you. And Mercedes is like, I don't want anything to happen to you. And so they create this kind of mother-daughter bond
Yeah.
during this whole time. And so Mercedes is really upset about it. And that's pretty much where everything's wrapping up.
Yeah. Where the two stories connect once again.
And I thought they were very well woven together. It was
Yeah. It was
very
really cool to watch. Yeah. And it was really cool to have like, to me it almost seemed like you have the thrill whenever Ophelia is doing all these adventures, and then you can have like a rest, like a pause, whenever like real world things are happening. But then again, you still the real world events also have a thrill to it, but a one that is like a thrill that is evolving to a climax, while the Ophelia's adventures are a climax within the movie kind of deal. It was really cool.
I really like movies that do that, where it's just like everything comes together at the same time,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah,
smartly woven together. I thought it was really well done.
yeah.
What did you give this score for the plot?
Well, for the plot, I thought it was really smart to put two stories like this together. Like I said,
There's lots of
I
symbolism.
yeah, all the symbolism. It was very well thought out. I really liked, yeah, like all the symbolism about um, not following blindly. Basically, is the biggest lesson probably in the movie, and I feel like it also gives a lesson about second chances, about how you can believe in a person again. For example, Ophelia loses uh, the second task, the second
Yeah,
test,
definitely.
and she was given a second chance, to which she actually was able to succeed. I feel like that was even a test to the fawn, not only a test to Ophelia, but probably a test to the fawn to
And the
make
audience.
in the audience. Yeah, absolutely. So um, I thought it had a lot of really cool. I thought it was also really cool how Mercedes was basically being a part of both stories,
Yeah,
uh, and she did a great job while acting. I think the plot was really cool. I gave the plot an 8.9 out of 10.
8.9. 8.9.
Mm-hmm.
I gave it a 9 out of 10.
Oh wow, that was
Great,
really
like
good.
0.1 off. So that, I mean, obviously this it was a really well written plot. So now
Yeah,
we move on to our next pillar, which is characters.
characters. Yeah.
Stefan, what was your favorite character?
Well, I really like the characters. Vidal definitely made you
You
see
definitely
the
see
world.
yourself as Vidal, is what you're saying?
What?
You see yourself as Vidal?
I see my father as Vidal.
Oh,
But
think about that.
I just think I'm just kidding, guys. But I just think that it was a very well uh, character development that really made you. It just really made you feel like what it would feel like to be in his life, even as a family member, because they were suffering even as family members of him. Um, and I really liked Ophelia. I really liked her innocence, and I really liked how her innocence also was evolving and changing and
Yeah.
basically
Movie,
ending.
basically, her arc is she starts off kind like really innocent, just reading her books, and then
Yeah,
her main arc is to pretty much not to follow someone blindly, and that's pretty much her arc is her
yeah,
finding her own voice.
yeah. You know, I think that her arc was really cool. How it
And
was
the doll
portrayed.
starts off like really unhinged. I mean, he stays unhinged for the whole time, but you see him as this really like bad person.
Yeah, but even though you see him as a bad person, there is some points with throughout the movie where he lets you understand him a little bit.
Like when he killed the people for what were they doing? They were hunting for rabbits.
Yeah, they were hunting for. Oh yeah, that's kind of crazy. I was not
What was
expecting
the
them.
part where you sympathize with him?
Well, just the whole fact of like he was raised that way. Like whenever he was explaining about his dad, like he's acting that way because he was raised that way. That's all he knows. So um, it is basically also a lesson of like if it could happen if you're raised some way that you end up being that way. But the lesson in the movie is to not follow blindly, even if that's what happened to you. Like Ophelia, she could have been raised that way, but she decided to not follow blindly. So that's why she ended up making her own choices that led to a different story completely. But I think all the characters were very well uh, represented by the actors as well. Even Ophelia, a little girl who acted really well
Yeah,
on.
honestly, Ophelia,
Mhm.
well, her name was Ivana. I don't know. I can't
Yeah,
pronounce it.
yeah. Ophelia's. Where's Ophelia? Ophelia. Yeah, Ivana Vaquero. Ivana
That's
Vaquero.
the name. I knew I
Yeah.
didn't want to butcher it, so I let you do it. So anyway, I thought she looked like basically 11 in Stranger Things a little bit, almost.
Yeah.
At least to me, I was
Yeah.
like, oh, this is giving me
Oh
like
yeah, actually,
strong
it's kind of
11
that. Mhm.
vibes right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like like 11 in the first season, very misunderstood, very like thinking the world is one thing completely different to what everyone else thinks. Um, and not
It's a lab rat.
yeah, basically yeah, it was really cool. Um, and Mercedes, of course,
Yeah,
I think Ophelia is my favorite character in the movie, but Mercedes is my second one. But by
Mercedes is
far,
my favorite. Great
yeah,
arc. She's like
great arc.
like early, like in the movie she tells her brother that she doesn't think that she's brave, and he's like, you're brave, you're like living with this crazy guy, and she doesn't think that until I guess she builds up enough confidence to finally do something about him. And
I mean,
when she
yeah,
escapes, yeah, so she's
mhm.
basically
She,
sets off, basically afraid. She builds up courage, she fights back with her knife, and she builds
yeah,
a
she was,
relationship with Ophelia.
mhm.
Yeah.
And she was doing so
You
much.
know what bugged me? You know what bugged me? The only thing that bugged me about this movie is when she attacked Vidal and she didn't kill him. And
Yeah,
after when she had the knife and she was cutting him up, why didn't she just end it? She could have ended it.
but that's most movies. Most movies are just
That's that's what that's what made me mad. Pissed me off.
yeah. But if a movie is able to get you mad, it's a good thing. Um, but I agree on that. I think Mercedes was basically the key for the rebels to win.
Yeah.
and
She was giving them information. She was giving them
information,
all the
supplies,
supplies that they need.
medicine. Yeah, and her not believing that she was brave just talks about how much humility she had about her actions. For characters, I gave it a 9.1 out of 10.
I gave it a 9. I'm just sticking to straight numbers, you know.
You're just thinking you like the whole numbers, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I was thinking about doing points, but I was like, I could see 9 being well. The Doctor was also a great character too, Stefan.
oh yeah, yeah. You can talk about the Doctor.
He basically laid out what the movie was about by his little speech at the end before he died, that he didn't want to follow Badal's orders blindly, and that he decided to help out the rebels and the fascists, and he didn't care. He just wanted to help people, as a good doctor should, you know.
Yeah, I also think this as a good Doctor should, and at the same time, I kind of talks about that neutrality is a hard thing to maintain, and eventually you have to choose a side,
Yeah,
like he did in the movie. Um, and he did like he did a really good job at making you have a neutral ground for most of the movie.
he was very much that neutral ground until he decided that he was going to make his stand.
Yeah,
I mean, it wasn't like a huge stand. It was just like I am. I guess he, I guess he
it
deliberately
was
just
a
made,
statement.
yeah, it was a
Yeah,
statement pretty much.
yeah,
It wasn't
and a
like I'm
statement
laying
of
back to stand. It was like I'm not going to listen to your orders because they're stupid. So
a statement and a stand. I would call
because
it a stand
even if the
to
doctor, even if the doctor kept the prisoner alive, Vidal would have just kept torturing him. And
yeah,
what's the point in that? Vidal's going to torture him until he dies. So might as well put him out of his.
just end it. Yeah, I agree.
Anyway,
Uh,
do you have all these characters?
what do you think about the fawn? We didn't even talk about the fawn and the
Yeah,
characters real quick.
I really enjoyed his character in the sense
Yeah,
that I did not trust him at first. Not just because of his foreboding.
he had this thing where like you were all. It always had me thinking, okay, he's gonna break evil now. Okay, he's
But
gonna break.
yeah, but
Whenever he got disappointed, I thought he was gonna like
stuff.
yeah, or do some revenge kind of deal, or I don't know, but
He did drop into evil moments, but it wasn't like he was trying to test her by being evil to see if she would do the right thing. But I thought he was bad, especially when Mercedes was talking to Ophelia about mythical creatures, and Ophelia said, "Oh, I saw a fawn," and then Mercedes said, "Oh, my mother told me never to trust fawns," and I'm like, I don't trust him now. I don't.
yeah, no, but I think that was part of
Yeah,
the
but in reality, she shouldn't have trusted the fawn when handing over her brother, because if she trusted the fawn handing over her brother, that would have been the wrong decision.
oh yeah, that's a good
So
thing. Maybe
she shouldn't have trusted the fawn, in which she didn't do. Thank you.
yeah.
Anyway,
So maybe also Mercedes saved the world in both sides
Mercedes
because
is the best character, hands down.
she let the rebels
So,
have the
so
supplies
do you
from
have
the
her
fascist
name
people.
written down?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Look
Mercedes,
for all the characters that you have written down, because I'm gonna butcher these names.
and yeah. So the characters are so Ophelia is portrayed by Ivana Vaquero. The Fawn is portrayed by Doug Jones. Vidal is portrayed by Sergi Lopez. Mercedes is portrayed by Maribel Verdú. Carmen is portrayed by Adriana Gil. And the Doctor is portrayed by Alex Angulo. They all did great jobs. So yeah, now we're gonna be moving to the next category in our five pillars. The next pillar, which is the score, which in this movie was made by Javier Navarrete. And what was your thoughts about the score, Nick?
I thought it was very beautiful, very,
Fitting.
yes, fitting. Very mythical and creepy at times when they're portraying these mythical creatures and stuff. But when they go back to the human world, it's very normal and kind of fairy tale-y. Like, I thought it was very beautiful. Um, the composer is actually a Spanish composer, and he won a Oscar nomination for his work on this film. What did you think?
No, I agree with you completely. I I completely agree that you can tell a difference between when they're in the fairy tale world and whenever they're in the real life world, and the score helps you transition your emotions and your
I remember like when I was watching the film, I was like, wow, this is really beautiful. But it also there wasn't anything that really stood out to me that I'm gonna remember its own unique sound. Like some movies have unique sounds, like Indiana Jones. You know the Indiana Jones theme song, but this there's nothing like that stands out. But this movie didn't necessarily need that. But
exactly.
yeah, but
I
took
think
that into a factor for this movie, which I decided to give it an 8.5 for the score. What about you, Stefan?
I completely agree. I feel like the whole score was really fitting to every single part and really emphasized the emotions of what was going on, the feelings of the environment around them. It definitely made you feel more immersed in the world. So I don't think it really needed that kind of kind of like tone
Pirates of
that
the
or
Caribbean.
that kind of tune that you would remember later on.
Yeah,
But it definitely gives a better view of the movie. Without it, it would have been a different movie. So I gave it an 8.8. Um,
very good score.
for
Very good.
very good score. Did you say that the composer won an award?
And they didn't win an award. He won a Oscar nomination,
Oh, there we go.
which
Yeah,
is pretty much an award
which is pretty
itself.
much an award. Yeah, absolutely. Otherwise, he wouldn't be nominated. But absolutely. Now we're gonna be moving to our next pillar. What is our next pillar, Nick?
Our next pillar is special effects, where we cover CGI, makeup, practical effects, and costume. What did you think
Yeah,
about it?
all of that.
What you got?
It was perfect, man. It definitely made you feel like in a different kind of setting. It definitely, first of all, the whole setting in like the woods definitely made you feel like they were secluded. Uh, that they were all in Vidal's house, which was a secluded place where he commanded his fascist, basically like regime, and that the rebels were hiding in the woods, and then when it came to the fairy world, it definitely made you feel like, whoa, these characters are creepy and they're
Yeah,
definitely from a different world. They're
definitely
definitely
a
mythological. They're definitely mythological.
the prosthetic
Um,
looked absolutely amazing. The makeup
and
blend, it
yeah,
gave all the creatures had like a dark kind of tone to them, even though they had some color to it. The font had like a little blue tint to it, but it was kind of like a creepy blue. Where
yeah,
I guess it's
and
like a steel blue. I guess that's what it is. And even the fairies, like the green fairy, was like a very, I don't know. It was kind of like a
almost evil looking at some like
yeah. It
yeah,
looked
from some,
kind of evil looking, and the color
but
coloring in it.
that's yeah, that's what I wanted to mention. Like you imagine a fairy in some sort of like charming kind of way,
Yeah.
but in reality maybe fairies don't look that way. Maybe fairies even could be like, if they existed, they could be confused with a bug, like in the movies. And
Yeah.
they really wanted to make all these mythical creatures come to life in a very realistic way,
Yeah.
which definitely, yeah,
I like their little sounds where they're like telling her to like when she was eating the grapes, they were like flying around her. I don't know. I can't recreate the sound there because I don't remember what they sound like. But I remember I was like, oh, those are pretty interesting sounds.
yeah. And I don't
Ooh,
know, it just makes you feel immersed in a very different, darker uh, kind of world. And
even the practical effects when they go into the real world, when the prisoner gets beat up, you could see like his face is all puffy.
oh yeah,
That
yeah,
looks really good. And when the dog gets his cheek sliced, and later on you see it, and he's like stitching it together, that looks amazing.
very realistic, yeah.
I think some of the CGI was really good for the day. Like the bugs when she was crawling through the mud underneath the tree in her first like tests. I don't know. They look. You could kind of tell that they were fakey, and like one crawled onto her face and she didn't react. And I don't know about anybody else, but like something's on my face. I go get that off my.
Yeah,
But I don't know. The bugs looked a little bit iffy. And then later on in the movie, there were some explosions that the rebels were causing, and I don't know, it kind of looked a little bit fakey for fire. I think they could have done a little bit better with that. But
Yeah, I feel like they're
the
probably their main focus.
CGI available in 2006 is definitely different than these days. So
That's true, and at the same
it
time,
wasn't something that took away from the movie for sure. But
no,
everything,
no, no.
yeah,
I don't think I even paid attention to those moments, but at the same time, I feel like their main focus was to have great depiction of the fairy world
yeah, and the
within the
prosthetic,
movie.
that guy,
The
the
prosthetics,
creepy guy,
yeah, the creepy guy, the fawn, the
the font itself was creepy.
yeah, the mandrake, all of the creatures.
Yeah,
Uh, I like it when they do the prosthetics in a real life kind of way instead of CGIing the
yeah,
things.
I prefer that as well. Just like with Star Wars, like they do, like in the I mean, there's a lot of things to criticize about the newer ones, but I really like the practical, like prosthetics that they do for the aliens in the new one,
Yeah,
sequel trilogy, as compared to the CGI of the prequel trilogy. It doesn't. I mean, it's okay, but it's not. It doesn't make you immersed in the world as much, I guess.
yeah.
Some of
I
the
feel like I feel like for I feel like we're gonna judge those things later on because Star Wars is definitely gonna be a big part of our podcast.
But you have to
Um,
definitely take into the account the CGI available at the time. But I do appreciate when a movie does practical effects more than when they do CGI.
yeah, I agree on that, and
Like
that's
in the Hobbit trilogy, basically
yeah.
the
Okay,
background
that's a
CGI
better example.
versus the
That's a
Lord
better
of the
example.
Rings, which all the
Yeah,
backgrounds and like the scenes are actually shot in New Zealand instead of just being computer generated. I love the like actual backgrounds instead. But
I feel like that's a better example. Like you can definitely tell the difference,
yeah,
even though the Lord of the Rings were made way before the
yeah,
Hobbit, and
it
I prefer watching like the. I would score higher the special effects on the Lord of the Rings than
that
in the
has
Hobbit.
real life scenery, and I really enjoyed.
Yeah,
It. It was basically a tour of New Zealand, which was great. So yeah, I
yeah,
enjoy when a movie does really good
hmm
practical effects like this movie did, which
yeah.
most of this movie
So
was practical effects. So I appreciate
yeah,
it.
so it's not Lord of the Rings, but it's a really good prosthetics kind of deal.
Yeah.
So I gave this movie a 9.2 for special effects.
Thank you. I gave it an 8.5, mainly because of some of the CGI. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, if you take in like you said, if I had really noticed those, I would probably like lower the score there. But I never really even paid attention to those little details, which a critic should. And at the same time, it's
I feel like
2006.
your score on it was like a justifiable score as well. So I was just being a little bit harsher on it, but
Yeah,
it's fine.
and
So
what takes away my decision is the fact that the fairy creatures look really realistic and they weren't CGI, which is what made me
the fairy creatures were CGI.
okay. Fine, Nick. I'm just kidding. Can you cut that?
So Stefan, what'd you give special effects?
So, because of considering that the prosthetics look really realistic, and taking into consideration that the CGI needed a little bit of work, but it was 2006 as well. I gave the movie an 8.9 because I really liked and I really focused on the big parts like the fun and the
Yeah.
creepy guy, things like that. So that's why I chose that score.
I enjoy more of a practical look to a movie because it just
Yeah,
makes you more immersed into the film.
yeah,
And yeah, it gave the creatures a lot more of a creepy look instead of if it was CGI, it would just like they probably would have made it look creepier and it just wouldn't have looked right. So I think they made the right choice, and I think
yeah,
the director always leans towards more practical effects with
yeah.
his
This
like
director
in the
definitely
Shape
does.
of Water and Hellboy. You can definitely see the practical effects that he uses, and
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
well, very close. We always end up having close
Well,
scores. We'll have a movie where we actually disagree upon, but later on.
Tron.
Now,
We're gonna move on to our
Tron is a
favorite.
big one, guys, because it's a great movie. It's one of the greatest. but
we're gonna shut
uh,
up.
unpopular opinion. Anyway,
Don't try to pull a fast one and try to convince everyone to follow your lead blindly. Don't follow his lead blind. You watch
okay,
on and
yeah,
you decide for
yeah.
yourself how
You
bad
do
the
the
movie is.
same whenever he talks about Jurassic Park. Okay, please do not follow his
Oh my
opinion
god!
blindly.
But the people already know it's the best movie.
Oh, you see, this is what I'm talking about.
It's objectively known that
The
it's.
hypocrisy, because Tron is the best movie, not Jurassic Park. But anyway, um,
So we're gonna move on to our fifth and final pillar, which is cinematography, where we cover lighting, sound, and set design.
absolutely.
What did you think?
I felt like it was really good cinematography. Like I said, they didn't choose really big. How I forget the name in English. Like views. Okay, views. They didn't choose like the mountains, or they didn't choose like like the
Landscape.
mountains in Spain or big
Yeah,
lands in Spain.
it was a very small set. It didn't have
Yeah,
didn't go to a bunch of different places. It just stuck to the same area.
yeah. Which I mean, I feel like it worked in their advantage because it helped them, like you
Didn't
said,
have
do
to
more
have a
practice.
huge budget for it.
Yeah, and
They
it
didn't,
helped them
well, they didn't have to
have.
spend a huge budget in having all these different locations.
Yeah, and at the same time, it helped them focus on the important things, and it helped them use practical shootings, which made it look more realistic than if they had chosen another way. Uh, but it definitely made you like the how do you call it in English, the la flora la fauna,
On
the plants, the flower, like
the yeah
la flora y la fauna. Nick, you're a
fauna
biologist.
the plants. What?
Yeah. Well, they just
Tree?
really depict Spain is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, okay.
They depict Spain. They do look like you would be in a Spanish setting, um and like the way they're dressed, the shots,
Yeah.
the yeah, yeah, it just was very well shot. Clearly lets the viewers know that Guillermo del Toro knows about Spain. So um
I hope so.
yeah.
He did a whole
So
movie.
I think the cinematography was really good. I think the lighting when they were in the fairy world, like the darker tones and like it was just very well made you feel immersed in the movie. So I gave it an 8.9 as well.
8.9.
Hmm.
Okay, so I what I thought about the lighting was the movie started off with a very warm tone, and it was very light because Ophelia was still had her innocence, and she was, some could say that she was making up this world in her mind, or she was discovering this world, and the sun was shining. It was very beautiful. And then she gets to this fascist camp where it starts getting darker tones. She finds the labyrinth where it's very, all the tones in there are dark. And
Yeah,
I thought that was really cool. But as the movie progressed, the lighting got bluer and bluer. I don't know if you noticed, which it kind of washed out the golden tones. I thought that was
yeah,
a really smart choice because it kind of showed how it was progressing and getting darker until it got to the end where Ophelia died, where it was at its darkest.
it
And then,
was at its darkest.
then
Yeah,
she goes
that's wow.
then she goes to the other side where it becomes light again. I thought that was
Hmm.
really well done. Set designs, very beautiful. The cave scene underneath the tree where she's crawling through, and they had like kind of like a yellowish lighting, and there was a lot of mud, and it was kind of like a boxy kind of cave, but like I thought it was really well crafted.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
the forest location, like you said, very like it. I'm pretty sure they were filming in a real forest, and if not, it was the set was made very well. And then
yeah.
um, yeah, what the monster layer was really nice. I talked about how it was kind of like a creepy hallway, like it kind of had earthy tones. I really liked how it was like set up. Um, and so yeah, and then sound, I had no problem like hearing anything. So I thought the sound was very well done.
I feel like and a really good point of view that you had was that the movie started really with really like bright colors, and it started getting darker and darker, and finally when the end comes for both Ophelia and Vidal, it was at night, and the darkness it basically turned to black.
Yeah, and then when Ophelia crossed to the other side, it became nice. It was like
Again, it was really bright, and for Vidal, it just stayed dark, which is it was really still part of the whole uh, symbolism in the movie about Ophelia gaining eternal life, in my opinion, or a second life, and her stepfather Vidal basically facing the darkness of oblivion, which was, I don't know, it was really cool. So yeah, like I said, I gave it an 8.9. What did you give it?
I gave it an 8.9. Oh,
Eight
sorry,
point nine.
sorry, that wasn't an 8.9. It was a 9.5.
Oh wow, okay.
I was looking at the overall. My overall score for the movie is an 8.9.
8.9. My overall score of the movie is also an 8.9
Oh,
as well.
so I'm pretty sure those two averaged together are an 8.9.
I don't know. Do you want to add them and then divide them by two real quick? So I think,
I'll do it. I'll do it.
yeah.
Look, it's an 8.9. Stupid.
Oh, what?
8.9 plus 8.9 divided by 2 is 8.9.
Oh, shoot. Okay. Well, yeah,
Aren't you a math major?
that's
Let's just
amazing.
say
That's amazing.
Yeah, I was just kidding with that though.
our official Guardian score is 8.9.
8.9, baby.
Ooh.
Um, so this
Pan's
is an
Labyrinth.
amazing movie.
Pan's Labyrinth.
Pan's Labyrinth is an amazing
Very good
movie.
movie. Definitely
If
recommend.
you live in the US, it's available on your Netflix services.
I think we pulled
Go
it.
watch it.
Yeah. If you made it this far, you might as well just watch it. You know.
Just watch this movie.
Super great.
You're gonna find
You're
a
gonna love
delight
it.
in this
I
movie.
guarantee it.
Yeah, especially if you like dark tones, and if you like thrill, and
If you want like a darker Narnia, this is your movie.
if you want a darker Narnia, just a darker Narnia. Let's just call it that.
So Stefan, I have a question for you.
Yeah, what's up?
So, when was a time in your life that you followed someone blindly?
Mm, that definitely has to do with that was definitely during my last job, which was a door to door job, and for example, our boss would tell us that we had to finish knocking at 9 p.m., even though it was already dark outside. And I would actually finish knocking at 9 p.m., even though I'm not even sure if it was legal, but people would get really upset because someone is knocking at their door at 9 p.m. So they would be really confused, some of them even scared. But that was the basically the orders that our boss would give us, and everyone else at the company would do the same. So I would also knock until he called the day. So, and then I realized, why am I even doing this? And then I thought critically about what I was doing and that I was actually affecting people. So I stopped doing it. But that was one time where I followed people blindly. What about you?
Well, this is a question I've thought about a lot. I guess a way our society um, follows people blindly, I guess, is how we're kind of the younger generations are kind of pushed into going to college. They may not even know what they want to do or what they want to major in, but they end up majoring in something. They spend a lot of money on this stuff, and they and once they're done with college, that doesn't necessarily guarantee their success, that they're going to get a job, blah blah blah. And I feel like most people go through that. I've went.
Yeah.
I
You know, no, you know what upsets
recently
me
got a
is
job,
that,
but it took me a while to get a job. So I guess just the whole like
yeah, and there's a different opportunity between majors and between the majors that you choose, and a lot of people, like you say, don't even know what they want to do with their life.
yeah,
So
like
they just
I
end
went
up,
into college and I was like, I don't know what I want to do, and
yeah. I felt the same way. You end
I
up
still
choosing,
don't know what I want to do. You know?
you end up choosing a major, and
Yeah,
um like there's some majors that actually guarantee success more than others,
yeah,
but at the same time, someone who chooses to follow their passion, maybe philosophy, maybe something like that, they would have to pay, at least in our private university that we went in, most universities in the US, they would have to pay ex- extremely expensive amounts of money to attend their classes, and it's not guaranteed that they're ever going to get that money back.
Exactly.
So
And it's this weird kind of society that we've created when there's other jobs that are more needed, like the trades. You don't have to go. You barely even have to go through any school. You could get your associates if you want to, but that's your choice. You don't have to get your associates. You just have to go through some classes and learn your trade, and then you can start doing your trade. Like my brother did welding, and you could make some pretty good money doing that. But there's different options out there that you don't have to go through a 4-year university to be successful in life. And
yeah,
I feel like that's something that our generation followed blindly to, and maybe we'll have to break apart from that because there's jobs out there that are paying way more because there's not the supply. There's a lot of demand but not a supply, just like those trade jobs. And I know some people in computer science yeah, they don't need to go through school. They just need to know their craft and then they get hired.
Yeah, and that's a demanded job right now, and the supply is low. And people who literally learn a couple of languages, of coding languages, and they learn, like you said, they learn their craft. They end up making 80K a year when someone who went 4 years to college makes an average of 30. So it is very deceiving. It is very deceiving, especially because it is very expensive, a very expensive cycle that we've been following blindly.
Yeah, and maybe we need to change it as a society.
We need to change the system. This is where the revolution starts.
Revolution.
So as promised, guys, we're gonna be revealing what movie we're gonna be reviewing next week, and that movie is
The Mummy, 1999.
Yeah. So if you have already watched that movie, because you probably have, you can see a review.
We also like, you could find it on a couple of streaming services. You could find it for free on Hulu, HBO Max, Amazon Prime, and Cinemax.
Yeah. So watch it before the video and then compare your thoughts with ours.
Yes. And we'll catch you next week.
Catch you next week, guys.
Yep.